Chapter 1, Video 1. Today we're going to talk about the cardiac anatomy and physiology of the heart. We're going to talk about the basic structural functions. It's very important that you guys understand the anatomy of the heart, because understanding the anatomy of the heart is very important to understanding how it works when we begin to diagnose the different rhythms. First, there's some terminology that I want to go over with you. When we talk about the heart and you hear the term MI, capital M, capital I, MI equals myocardial infarction. Okay, so that stands for myocardial infarction. And basically what a myocardial infarction is a heart attack. So you may hear the terminology, this patient had a heart attack. You may hear they had an MI, or you may hear they had a myocardial infarction. They're all the same thing. That is a heart attack. The heart is a muscular organ about the size of a man's closed fist, okay? It functions to pump enough blood to meet the body's metabolic needs. The heart pumps and circulates 4 to 8 liters of blood per minute, okay? And the average heart beats about 90,000 times each day. And it pumps approximately 6 liters of blood a day. Anyway, when we think about that, that's the average. That's the average of what the heart puts out. The heart rate is usually about 60 to 100 beats per minute. It depends on the person and what they have going on. And it's located in the thoracic cavity in the mediastinum, above the diaphragm, behind the sternum, and in front of the spine. And one thing I want to point out to you guys, so don't get this confused, please. It's backwards, so don't get it confused. The top of the heart, the very top of the heart, when we look, I'm going to flip over to this picture. The very top of the heart, right here, this is the base of the heart. The bottom pointy portion of the heart is the apex. So the top of the heart is the base. The bottom of the heart is the apex. That bottom pointed area is the apex. So please, don't confuse that, because when you think base should be the bottom, but it's not. The base of the heart is actually the top of the heart. And one thing about the base, this is where the great vessels emerge from. And we're going to talk about the great vessels later. The great vessels is like your aorta, your superior inferior vena cava. So the great vessels, they emerge from the top of the heart, from the base of the heart. When we talk about the apex again is the bottom of the heart, and you can see it here in this picture. It's the bottom pointed area of the heart. And the heart kind of sits at an angle with the point at the bottom pointing to the left, okay? So this is the patient. You're looking at this view. I would be looking at the patient, talking to them face to face. So it looks like it's the bottom right of the heart, but actually it lies at an angle with the point pointing left. And we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that in the future, but when we're talking about anatomical position, we put ourselves as the patient. So if this was me and this was my heart and I'm standing there, that heart would be pointing, that pointed area, that apex would be angling down and pointed to the left, okay? So we're not saying left when we're looking at it. We're saying that we are the actual patient. This is my heart and it's pointed down to the left. So don't let that confuse you, because when you look at the picture, you automatically think, no, that's pointing to the right, but it's not. Put yourself in the patient's shoes and pretend that's your heart and you're standing there. It would be pointing down to the left. So now we're going to talk about the layers of the heart, just so you guys will understand the different layers of the heart. We have 3 layers of the heart that we're really going to get into. Epicardium, myocardium, and endocardium, okay? The epicardium is the outermost layer of the heart, and it houses the coronary arteries, okay? So the coronary arteries, they run along this epicardial layer. The myocardium is the middle, thickest layer, and it is made of muscle, okay? So this myocardium is made of muscle, and it does the work of contracting. And this is the portion of the heart when a person has a heart attack that is damaged, because these coronary arteries, they run along the epicardium. They start on the outer area of the heart, but they dip down into that muscle, into that myocardium. So when a person has a myocardial infarction, a heart attack, this myocardium is the area that is damaged during that heart attack. The endocardium is the innermost layer, and it forms the heart valves, okay? It's on the inside of the heart. So we're standing on the inside of those chambers, and that's the area of the endocardium. So it's the innermost layer, and it actually forms the heart valves. The cardiac conduction system is in the endocardium, okay? The endocardium houses the electrical conduction system, which we're going to talk about later. That will make more sense to you as we start to put things together. The endocardium is actually watertight, so it has a layer to keep it really, really tight, and it prevents the leakage of blood into the heart. And what I mean by that is when the heart's pumping, when that muscle is pumping, we have chambers, and that blood moves through those chambers, and that inner layer, that inner chamber, that endocardium is watertight, so it lets the blood stay in those chambers and it doesn't seep out into the tissue. And now we're going to talk about the pericardium. The pericardium is a doubled wall sac that encloses the heart, okay? So when we go back to this picture, we have our epicardium, which is the outer layer of the heart, but we also have a pericardium, which is a thin membranous sac that encloses that heart, and it serves to protect it, okay? The pericardial fluid is found between the layers of the pericardium. So there's a layer of fluid. It's a thin layer of fluid that surrounds that heart, and it has and it's the pericardium, but it decreases friction. That fluid like keeps the heart lubed up with each heartbeat, so we don't have a lot of friction there. And it also anchors the heart to the diaphragm and the great vessels. Now, at this point in the game, we're going to talk about the blood flow of the heart. I'm going to skip around just a little bit, but I'm going to create a second video because it will take me a few moments to go through that. So we're going to stop at this point, and then we're going to discuss the blood flow of the heart and how it travels through the heart, because I think that will help you better understand what is happening with the heart chambers as we move forward through the next slides.